Well, of course, Iran's certain to be a major focus when President Trump welcomes the German Chancellor to the White House on Tuesday. It'll be Friedrich Merz's second visit since winning parliamentary elections a year ago. He spoke to reporters in Berlin after the US and Israeli attacks.
The federal government shares the relief of many Iranian women and men that this mullah regime is coming to an end. Together with the United States and Israel, we share the interest in ensuring that this regime's terror ends and that its dangerous nuclear and ballistic armament is stopped. The military strikes are intended to put an end to the destructive actions of a weakened regime. This is not without risk.
Well, let's hear from an expert on transatlantic relations. Constanze Stelzenmüller directs the Centre on the US and Europe at the Brookings Institute. That's a think tank in Washington. Well, welcome to DW. So we have another meeting in the White House. Last time the German Chancellor seemed to manage the meeting reasonably well. What's he heading into this time with the president emboldened by a couple of days of bombing his favourite bogeymen?
Well, it's clearly added to the complications of the visit. We're already looking at a domestic landscape that is a bit fraught because of regional elections in Baden-Württemberg, a popular state in southwest Germany. And let's not forget over all this that the lead candidate of the AfD there, the German hard-right party, is set to visit Washington a day after the Chancellor. This, I think, adds to the troubles in that Friedrich Merz has said in the past that Israel is doing die Drecksarbeit, the dirty work for Europe, by dealing with terrorist threat, and Iran the chiefest among them in the region. And so he will no doubt be asked what that means.
And he hasn't openly criticised this US-Israeli mission, but neither has he endorsed it. So what, as far as you can tell, is the German government's stance on President Trump's latest adventure?
Well, you know, why don't we give the president the benefit of the doubt? I mean, I have many doubts about this, but let's for the moment say that, or remind all our viewers, that Iran has also been a nefarious actor in the European security space. It's funded terrorist networks. It has, by perpetrating aggression in the Middle East, sent streams of refugees to Europe, and it has supported Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. So Europe does actually have interests here, but it also has, I think, limited agency and options. And so it's understandable that European governments in the immediate aftermath of the strikes urged restraint and diplomacy. Now, however, following strikes on British, French bases and American bases that also station German soldiers, the London, Paris, and Berlin have issued a statement last night saying that they are willing to join with their allies in defensive measures, whatever that means.
Right. And why do you think that the Germans in particular, let's focus on them, why have they been so restrained or measured in their support for President Trump, given the interest that you've outlined there?
I think that there is a general sense of overstretch in Europe and in Germany. We are still profoundly concerned about Russian aggression in Ukraine and the impact of that on European security. Let's not forget that that comes accompanied on a practically daily basis with hybrid attacks, propaganda, and sabotage across Europe. And so there is, I think, a strong sense that the Americans might be getting themselves into something that will last a lot longer, as it did in Iraq and Afghanistan, and where allies might be asked to contribute military support that is currently in short supply.
Right. So they are mincing their words in case somebody in the Trump administration asks them to follow up their words with actual deeds and actions and military support.
I think that's right. I mean, for the moment, the Trump administration appears to believe that this will be all over relatively quickly and that there will be regime change by the Iranian population. I think experts in the region and in Iranian politics are inclined to doubt that it will happen that quickly and that cleanly.
Germany has about 500 troops stationed in various bases in the Middle East. What are they doing there? And are they now likely to become targets for Iranian or Hezbollah retaliation?
Well, as we've seen, those bases, specifically in Jordan and in Iraq, have already become the targets of Iranian drones. I think it depends on what Paris, London, and Berlin now do together to support America and Israel. Remember that Germany has traditionally a special relationship with Israel that it has pledged to support for the past 8 decades. But I think it very much depends on how, frankly, the next days and weeks unfold. One thing I would like to remind viewers of is that if any country in Europe has great expertise in warding off and destroying Iranian drones, it is Ukraine.
I want to go back to this question of European armed forces stretch, because it puts, and I'm going to focus on Germany, puts the Europeans in a really invidious position, because the calculation then, if Iran is saying, well, if the Americans and the Israelis hit us, we will feel free to hit them and their allies wherever. So the question then, someone somewhere is doing a calculation and asking, well, how many German soldiers in Middle East German bases, how many soldiers does Iran get to kill before Germany decides, oh, actually, we do have to enter this fight?
Phil, I'm sorry, it just isn't that easy. You asked me earlier why those soldiers are there. They're there in support of a mission that Germans have decided is in their interest as well. This is something entirely different. The Americans, and especially President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, have cited a broad smorgasbord of military rationale, all of whom suggest that little thought has gone into the post-strike planning of this. I mean, the rationales are from we are defending against Iranian imminent attack to revenge. None of that inspires confidence in post-strike planning. And so I would put it to you that European caution and restraint for now is actually very understandable.
Okay. Just taking us back to the strange way the world was before it went as mad as it got at the weekend. Let's go back to tariffs, because on tariffs, as well as fighting with Iraq, Donald Trump has just lost a tariff fight with the Supreme Court. And I'm wondering if Chancellor Merz can expect to bring back some clarification or even concessions on the issue of tariffs from tomorrow, after tomorrow's visit.
Phil, I do wonder whether you might expect too much rationality from the system at this point. As we all know, the president decides on tariffs and their specific level at his pleasure. I am not entirely certain that this administration is prepared to make the technical determinations that would be necessary to give a reliable promise of where the tariffs will currently end. All right? I think we just have to, for the foreseeable future, assume that pronouncements on tariffs will be at the whim of the President of the United States, and that details will have to be hammered out between the ministries, the Treasury and the Commerce, the Department of Commerce on the American side, and their European counterparts. And engaging in these discussions in public with the President in the Oval Office is probably best avoided.
Right. I particularly enjoyed the way you tiptoed through that right at the start and arrived at your conclusion. Thank you so much for that. Constanze Stelzenmüller from the Brookings Institute. Thank you.